Thank you.
Okay, good evening. I call to order the meeting of the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee on Thursday, March 6, 2025 at 7 p.m. And we'll begin by inviting you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I wish.
Okay, Mr. Tracy, do we have the Zoom up for citizens' comments?
Eric?
Yes.
The link to the school committee agenda is not live on our,
Oh, that's strange. It was earlier.
It was. I just signed in on that.
yeah, if you go through the school committee, yeah, there's,
Hold up. We're gonna just, while you get the Zoom up, we'll do the little troubleshooting to make sure.
never mind, I was looking at the wrong date.
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries.
They're living in the
Yeah,
future.
that's how I got into this one.
Hopefully.
Here we go.
You're good, I'm just checking.
Okay. All right. It looks like there is no one on Zoom.
Oh, correct.
Okay. So next up is citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for any citizen who wishes to speak to the committee to provide a comment. We ask that citizens make sure that when you approach the podium that you begin by telling us your name and spelling your name so that we get it correct for the minutes. We ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. And please know that this is an opportunity for you to speak and us to listen. It's a chance for you to be heard. And we're here to listen. I will ask, Amy, are you prepared to be a timekeeper? Okay, is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak? All right, please approach the podium. Yep.
Okay. 3 minutes, here we go. My name's David Smith. I live at 27 Home Street in Hamilton. I'm here as chair of the Town of Hamilton Board of Health. First, I want to thank you for giving me my 3 minutes. Purpose of my being here is to deliver a letter, which I have just done at the start of the meeting, a letter that conveys the results of discussions and votes taken at last week's meeting of the joint boards of the Town of Hamilton and Town of Wenham Boards of Health. The subject of that letter is the adoption of ASHRAE Standard 241 for indoor air quality in the proposed new elementary school. The discussions and the votes that were taken concern indoor air quality mainly in the proposed new elementary school project. The letter is self-explanatory. We expect no action by the board tonight, or by the committee or the administration tonight. What we do expect is that the letter will prompt some open public dialogue on the subject and give you some basis for consideration of our recommendation. We felt that the subject deserved open public debate because it, of course, directly affects the health of students, staff, and faculty that would be using the new facility. I do want to point out an important caveat to this. In the discussions that we had and in the votes that we took at the joint board meeting, we recognized that one member of the Wenham Board of Health, that's David Frankel, who's here tonight, serves also on this committee. And we were very concerned about either the fact or the appearance of a conflict of interest in David's role on the school committee and his role on the Wenham Board of Health. So we asked David to recuse himself from all the discussions on this subject and to abstain from voting. And that is exactly what happened. He did not get involved in the discussion. He did not vote. So in the letter, we mentioned there was a unanimous approval of the vote to make this statement to the school committee. It was all 3 members of the Hamilton Board of Health and the 2 voting members of the Wenham Board of Health, excluding David.
30
we
seconds.
Look forward to, 3 minutes. We look forward to a follow-up dialogue with you on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, I had no admin help this afternoon, so I had to hand you hard copies. Tomorrow morning, I will email to both of you the electronic file copy of that letter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tracy, still nobody in the Zoom room?
Else?
Okay, and it doesn't appear that there's any further comment in the room here. So at 7:05, we will close public comment. Okay. Next up, I am actually going to read a portion of our school committee protocols. As elected members of the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee, we, including the superintendent, accept the high honor and trust that has been placed in us to ensure that the students of the district receive the best education possible. To that end, we hereby commit to the following in the conduct of our business. Number 11, a school committee meeting is a business meeting that is held in public, not a public meeting. The committee will make every effort to ensure meetings are effective and efficient. Okay. Next up, Amy is going to read a portion of the school committee mission statement.
The Hamilton Wenham Regional School District School Committee's mission is to ensure our schools create graduates with a passion for lifelong learning, together with the critical skills needed to maximize their potential. The Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee will lead and inspire a district that attracts and retains high-quality educators by acknowledging and respecting their expertise and professionalism.
Thank you. Does anyone have any items that they'd like to hold from the consent agenda? No? Jen, would you be willing to make a motion?
I move that we accept the consent agenda as written.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Amy Kuhnberger. All those in favor? That is unanimous of the 4 members present, and the motion passes. Okay, next up is the meat of the meeting, which is the town meeting flyer. I don't know whether, Eric, you want to start, or Amy?
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So each year, we put together a flyer, usually a single page, two-sided, to help the public to understand not only the school department budget, but also any other items that may be on the warrant at their respective town meetings. The flyer that is attached currently is a first draft of what we found to just be like very similar to what we've done in the past. There's not a lot of fanciness to it, and it helps us to kind of tell the story fairly easily. On the back side is the elementary school project by the numbers. Some of the feedback we have received is it's a little bit wordy. This is really a document that is only shared during town meetings, so it's kind of a one-stop shot. And so Amy and I did a little more brainstorming and came up with a secondary version that looks a little bit differently in the front and slightly different in the back. So we'll start with the first one. Just maybe get some comments on the first one, if that's okay? Do you want to?
Well, I just want, I don't want to talk about this yet. I just want to make sure that, because I know I wasn't clear, I wanted to make sure that the rest of the committee is clear about the timing, that, that we have time, even though the agenda says approve the town meeting flyer, we actually have time to bring it back to our next meeting, and we would still have time. I just want to make sure, because I had not been clear on that, so I don't know if other people were confused on that, so.
So on the 20th, we have an opportunity to see a next, final draft, approve that one, and get it to the moderator.
Correct, exactly.
And I must say, I found the first paragraph confusing based on what I had recalled. It talks about getting a 51.28% reimbursement, but I guess that the caveat is it's of reimbursable costs, because we're actually only getting like 38% back of the gross cost.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yes, it's 51% of the reimbursable costs.
Right, both things are correct.
Yep, they're both correct.
So what is not, you know, can you give us a broad description of what's not reimbursable?
Sure, things like closets, so storage closets, storage units, places that exceed the state's numbers. So the initial design for 740 student school had 32 classrooms because the state uses 23 students average in a classroom. So if you do simple math, 740 divided by 23 is 32 classrooms. Our ed plan tends to, is designed to keep what we currently have, average class sizes at the elementary school of 19, and kind of forces us to add a few more classes. So those extra 3 classrooms become non-reimbursable. So those are types of spaces that would not be reimbursed. It's based on a total square footage minus things like, actually, believe it or not, teacher lunchrooms are not reimbursable. Adult preparation rooms for classes are not reimbursable. So there's a lot of things that you would think would be automatic that are not.
So can I, Eric and Dick, can I just interrupt the
I'm sorry.
two of you? This is actually, I think this is important. I wondered if we want to sort of back up and maybe have Amy give us an overview of the document before
Yeah.
we get into the, because I also have,
I was just
Things
confused
to-
because what always stuck in my head was.
oh, no, I think it's super,
7%
it's,
back of the project and
Just gave it to Dan.
38% 's big difference.
I wasn't trying, I really just want to make sure Amy gets an opportunity to sort of talk about the, like, 3,000-foot view first, and then we can talk about
Sure.
all the details of the,
Sure. Eric, do you have the other version one that has the text on it? Or do we want to look at that one? Is that this one?
This one?
Yeah, so the draft that's on the exhibit, I have updated. Now there's 2 options. The first one is more similar to the draft that's on the exhibit with a more in-depth look at the FY '26 other total revenue breakdown. So that text on the right is new. But this is similar to what we had last year, with just kind of how the budget is
yeah,
constructed,
thank you.
the assessments, the breakdown of the assessments, what the budget covers, just kind of at a bird's eye view, and then just a call to vote at the bottom with an ampersand, so everybody understands they need to vote at both town meeting and at town election. And then the backside of version 1 has, oh, this is version 2, which is fine. We can talk about this one.
You can go back to version 1
All
right
right.
here.
Just going in numerical
This is,
order.
this is the original that was
This
on.
is
This
the
is
original,
right,
so this one is definitely more of a novel format, meaning it's long, with a lot of text, where I tried to put together a lot of the frequently asked questions that we get on the left side, and then on the right is a breakdown of the project cost and the responsibility for the different parts of the cost, and then a chart, 2 charts, of what this could mean for my taxes with an average single-family home breakdown, just so people can kind of look at the numbers. And then at the bottom left, we have a QR code to the elementary project page.
So, and, I'm sorry, are you,
Oh, well, should I just go through
yep, go
version
through,
2?
because I do want to say a couple clarifying things, but
Okay.
go ahead.
And then version 2 is identical, except the long form, the first page is identical. The back, there's a nice image now of the school project rendering, and instead of that long form text are kind of bullet points with this same exact content, just kind of broken down into organized subheads.
Okay, so, thank you. So I just, for clarity's sake, I just want to make sure everyone understands. I think the committee understands, but just if anyone else is watching at home,
Yep.
that they understand that this represents only the piece of paper that people are getting at town meeting. It
Right.
doesn't represent, like, in other words, we have all kinds of other information if you use that QR code that goes into, so this isn't getting, distributed anywhere. It's really for, like, you walk into town meeting and you want to have something in your hand that you can read and understand. I just want to make sure. Is the committee, so my thought, and Amy, I will take, but my thought was to maybe take it, like, start with this page, page 1, and maybe have first questions or comments about the sort of visual presentation, and then have questions and comments regarding the actual content, and then maybe do the same thing on the second.
Sure, that will
Does
work.
that work
Yep.
as a structure?
Sure.
This is the first one.
So the
It's on
first,
Agenda.
the one that, this is one on the agenda, and then, so everyone's clear that there are two versions. One is the one that was on the agenda, and then the other one, if you can put the second one up there, because we don't have that one.
The second one.
The that one, because we don't have that one.
Yeah, that one isn't.
Yeah, came out late this afternoon. We're
We'll,
trying to,
we'll update it.
It's
No,
some
that, it's
options.
fine, I mean, that's why we're doing this.
Just
is-
discussion options, yeah.
Exactly, it's discussion.
I get
So,
it.
all right, so dive right in, what do people think? Questions, comments about just the visual look of it? I have thoughts, but I don't want to just, I want other people to talk. Go ahead, Jen.
Is there a way to put a figure there that shows the percent increase in between 2024 and 2025? Because those are big numbers.
It
If
is-
you just look at them out of context.
It's on the right-hand side of this
On
version.
the second version.
On the,
You don't have that one yet, this is what they updated.
Can I,
Can you make it bigger?
Yeah, let me,
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Jen, do you mean 25 to 26? Just to make sure. You
yeah,
said-
2020,
yeah. So it's
this budget
My version.
to the last budget.
Yeah. so-
Where's the percent increase?
Right,
on the
on
right-hand
the right,
side.
up there.
Third line,
See right here?
Right.
4.53?
Okay. So we didn't keep it under the 2.5%.
No.
No.
I
we-
thought
we
that
never
was
have.
the goal with using the excess and efficiency, was to keep it under the override.
It's still under the override, because we're only a percentage of the overall budget.
But are Hamilton and Wenham going to put those into the overall budget?
Yeah, there's no
Or are they
override
gonna
in either
consider them
community.
separate? Because sometimes they do and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, it depends on each community, so
Right.
there's no override in either community.
Both communities have said they don't need an
Yeah,
override.
we talked to both.
Okay?
Yeah, we're okay. That was the reason, just to not have to be in an override situation.
Yeah. No.
Yep. That's why version 2, we added this little paragraph to give some clarity
Yeah.
to that.
I wanted to just, and then other people, I just wanted to say one thing I really liked about this, the visual of this, this page in particular, is that, for me, it feels like there's some consistency year to year, and I think that, I like that people are looking at something that kind of looks familiar. I don't know if you felt like that was true, but I felt like it was true. It
Yeah.
felt like it had some familiarity with, so.
you know how I feel about brand consistency.
David, did you have thoughts about the visual on this before we move on to the content on this page?
I think I would agree. It's a bit cluttered that that the percentage gain or rise just next to it could be in isolation, and then maybe place the rest of the text further down somewhere. I can't see the whole document here. It was crowded. I mean,
It's
it's not your
crowded.
fault. It was just.
It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So are you saying you want to pull out the increase as a separate?
Is there the flip, the printout version of it I've got must be the old
The
version?
one,
Yeah.
the
No,
one
they-
linked doesn't have the paragraph on the right.
print-
Right,
Printout version
the
is
one that's on
version-
the agenda, you should have
Yep.
a copy of, and it's just blank over there on the right-hand side. I see it, you're looking at it right now.
We added it today.
Late this afternoon, we added this part of it to give more clarity.
So I guess I heard Jen saying, and maybe David, you're saying about to put that 4.53 larger, and I actually, it's interesting because, Jen, that was actually my first comment when I first looked at this. I said, why don't we have the percent somewhere? But as I look at it, I'm not sure that it really, I think, as I read it, I don't know that I do think it should be on there. I don't know that it needs to be a bigger, only because I think what's more important is the why, like, in other words,
Yeah.
the increase is driven primarily, and you know, it says by our negotiated, I mean, I think this is kind of wordy. I guess what I'm saying is I like the idea of like it's by, it's maintaining competitive wages is essential to attracting and retaining top talent in our district. I think that's really important. So I do think it's important to tie that 4.53 to the reason that that's the main driver. But I don't know that we need, this is just me, I don't know that I need that 4.53 to be in one of those big bold blocks.
What's on the other side of the flyer? Is it blank?
The other side of the flyer is, and it's on in your agenda, is the information about the
School
school
info.
building that you were just asking about.
For some reason, I've got, when whoever printed this out has got.
Oh,
the
is yours not printed?
Security plan for the modern UN trip.
Oh,
So I was trying to, square that.
Can I email the
You
PDFs
just
to
had it
everybody?
because you were commenting on it.
yeah, you were asking about it.
What's this?
Yeah, on the,
The other side is the back. You have it in your left hand.
This-
No,
No?
go back to page one. Is
Oh, I
is
see.
it on there?
Just flip over the whole
You
thing.
were just commenting on it.
That's because I was looking at this.
Oh, you have the original
do you have a
version.
printout?
I have well, I'd like to hang on to these two
Oh, yeah.
notes, but I can pass them
Oh,
over.
so this is going to be the other side, is what you're saying, is it?
Yes.
yeah, that's the
Yeah,
other
you
side.
have it, yes.
Right,
I can
right,
look
right,
on
Okay, okay,
right.
Do you want to,
gotcha.
that's one printout.
No, I don't know. I'm good.
All right. Sorry.
So, yeah, and we haven't gotten to that side, so we'll talk about that side. But yeah, so one side is, as we always have, it's about the budget, and then the second side is going to be about the school building project.
What if we moved the paragraph that's in the right-hand column to the bottom, and then put the please vote running down that right-hand column with the circles?
I'm just curious why, like, what problem are you
Font
trying to
bigger, or is
solve?
that-
You want to make it bigger?
I think you could make it bigger down at the bottom than you could over on the side, or maybe bullet point it so that you're saying the same thing, but in a shortened format.
Could you bullet point it on the side?
What if, so I agree that I think it needs to live with the reasoning. What if it was just bold? I know Like, there's a-
What was bold? That
the
paragraph on the right?
4.53% increase. And we could even bold the pieces that are the reasoning why.
Yeah, I like that.
So we're
Yeah.
pulling out, like, I just hate to elevate more things visually because at some point they all just compete
No,
with each other.
if I'm understanding you right, you're saying just bold the 4.5 and then maybe bold the maintaining competitive wages is essential to attracting and retaining top talent in our district?
Yeah.
Another way, just to think about it, is I think you could get rid of this pie chart and just put the percentage in the square, and that buys you, another couple of inches of real estate to spread out the explanation.
It's a question, though, people often ask at town meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we could put
Like-
it in.
Well, yeah, but all you have to do is put the percentage in.
Oh, I see what you're, I see, oh.
Yeah,
So-
it buys you some space.
Yeah.
You could
I
also
mean-
put the 4.5% at the top with the main number, if it's, if you want to
Oh, like, call it out
push
in
it
the
out,
big
if-
box up
if
top?
You're trying to call it out.
Basically,
but-
you're trying to buy white space.
Well, I'm trying to buy white space
Yeah.
because I feel like this is really crowded. So, yeah, like we could put the percentages in the boxes. I think that can work. And I can try a version of it and we can just pick one at the next meeting. Okay.
I don't know that we're gonna, but I really like the idea of the bolding, the highlighted points. This is, I'm gonna trust the creative minds. I kind of like the little pie chart, but,
No, I do
Chart.
too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, I will take advice from others.
I think it's just a nice, quick visual if you don't get to reading the numbers, but there are a lot of circles and boxes, so I'm not opposed to it.
Okay. Did anyone have any other content questions on this first page?
Content? No.
On that first page there, if anybody had any
I
other?
just-
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
I just want to suggest taking out, on the left-hand side paragraph, under where it says budget highlights, the last words for all of our students, it basically if you read it, you assume that all kids have a summer school experience. So just end it with, and enhances our summer school experience, period.
Yeah,
Done.
Because it's not for all students, it's actually a very specific group of students, so.
yep,
Just so we don't mislead anybody.
right, because it's like a list of things, and
Yep.
so, yeah, I
Yep.
think that's right. That's, yeah,
That's easy.
yeah, and it gives you a little bit more white space.
I love white space. People are afraid of it. Okay.
Right.
Any other? Okay. Great. Now,
Thank you for doing it.
oh, yeah,
All right.
sure.
Oh, wait, we have a
Page
whole
two,
nother
we
More,
got a
but
second
wait,
page.
There's more.
Well, wait.
Don't thank me yet. So yeah, the two versions, the one that's on the agenda is the long form copy, which I think is really long.
Like taxes,
What do you?
the long form.
And then the version 2, which Eric has up on the screen, kind of bullet points, the same content.
Yeah, can you just scroll it so I can read
Yep.
all the?
Yep.
I would change the picture.
I like the
Oh,
picture.
say more.
What would you
I
change to?
would show it a close-up picture of the actual learning environment, like with
Wow.
people in it.
I like that.
Classroom, you mean?
Like a classroom.
Yeah, bring it to the point where parents who are at school committee can picture their kids actually learning in these really nice environments. I like the overview, don't get me wrong, I think it looks great, but I don't think it's as personalized a picture as it would be if we showed kids in one of the new classrooms.
I like that.
Yeah, we do have some renderings.
I know.
Yep.
So I think this visually, even though there's still a lot of text here, I think this visually looks a lot, like I don't look, to be honest, the other one I sort of looked at like, oh my gosh, I have to read this whole thing. This, I don't feel that way. I think the bold, it's a little shorter and it's got the bold. I feel it looks more readable to me. To David's point, show me on here where it says the reimbursable amount. Maybe you've edited it to be different, not worded in the same way.
It's at the top, it's the MSBA contribution on the
Yeah,
upper
but
right.
I actually like if it is different. I mean, to David's point, when he asked at the beginning about the percentage, I think this is actually a lot clearer. That's how much money they're giving us.
Yep.
$49 million.
This is not a percent on this one.
Right, that's, I sort of think that's
percentage
just
in the
clearer
text. Yep.
than, because when David asked that question at the beginning, and, you know, he was saying, like, it's a genuine question because both things are true. It's the 51 reimbursable of the, you know, but it gets confusing. I think this isn't confusing. $49 million is $49 million is not confusing. That's how much it is.
Plus, remember, I'll do a presentation, and part of my
No, I know,
presentation
yeah.
is gonna be explaining that piece, because the warrant article specifically says 51.28.
Correct.
So,
Right.
that's the only reason I would say in the meeting, you'll see 51.28. If you did simple math, you'd realize it's less than that, and here's why.
Right.
Yeah.
We've answered that question probably 5 times in the past 3 days, too, from
I
people.
figured.
Yeah.
And we just posted something on the FAQ related to that, so maybe we can use some of that language in my presentation as well.
So what if we said, state reimbursement, MSBA will contribute approximately $49 million, which is 51.28% of reimbursable costs?
Well, I was not saying that. I was saying
Oh.
I like it without it. I was
Yeah,
saying,
I
I
think-
think, that's what I was saying, is I think that this is a
This is
good
the
edit,
actual number,
because I think,
Well, you've got it already
On the
on the
right.
right-hand side.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. I'm sorry.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I
I just
think the
assumed you
left-
wanted to add things.
yeah, no,
The left-hand side just explains that
Yeah.
MSBA is paying for part of the reimbursable cost,
yeah.
Okay,
not the non-reimbursable.
got it.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
exactly.
thought you were.
No, I think it's good. I think it's an upgrade from the original, that was what my comment was. I
Okay.
think that I was saying that what David was saying about the original, I think has been improved upon here, is my opinion.
Got it.
The only thing is, I would be, another way of doing this is in that right-hand column, just next to the 49,779,000, whatever, put the percentage, 38%, and next to the 92,400, 1.486,688, whatever the reciprocal of that is, what is it, 62%?
David, can you talk into your mic, because I can't hear you?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I would put the percentage that represents just next to it, either in brackets or whatever, but
So yeah, I'm going to say Amy's thing. Tell me more, like, I'm not quite sure, tell me more about why you feel like the percentage, like, how does that, because I'm not feeling that, but I want to hear, like, how does that help?
well, it's just, I mean, I hope most of the people reading this are mathematically gifted enough to be able to do that calculation in their head. But it does matter because a lot of the rhetoric early on with this project was that it was going to be more like 47%. And there's a whole, not very clearly explained, additional expense that's not reimbursable. And so I don't think you really, or do you? When you edited this, because I'm not sure I've got the latest version.
It's up there. Yeah, none of us have it. It's up there.
Yeah, so I think the question that will come up is what changed, what the expectation of what would be reimbursable seems to have changed.
And I think you're right that will be a question. I think you're absolutely right. And I also just want to say, while it is, I do understand that it is confusing and that I do think that someone from the public may be confused about that. I do want to say it's been, that the superintendent has been explicit all along about explaining when they went through those percentages every single time, saying it's of the approved, reimbursable costs, and we talked on and on and on about those numbers being variable. I know David Polito mentioned it many times in this meeting. That does not mean that it won't come up as a question, because I think it will come up as a question. But just to be clear, it's not that something changed, it's that, like, it's always been a certain percentage of the reimbursable costs, and that there always were going to be costs that were not reimbursable.
And it will be in my presentation.
And you'll
Like, I'll break
present.
it down in my presentation. This is, if you, the 51.28% is what's in the warrant article.
Yeah.
So I'll explain the difference in my presentation. That's part of the initial presentation on this
Okay.
at town meetings.
Can you scroll down to the bottom of that, so? So, I'm wondering about, because the two questions on the bottom are about questions that we commonly get from members of the public, like, shouldn't we just repair it instead, right?
Yep.
I must admit, I have a problem with the cost of repair of the individual schools, because as far as I could understand from the dialogue I've had with Eric, no specific costings were done. It was that those are estimates based on rules of thumb, not a bottoms-up assessment that would say take our new facilities managers' growing checklist and some other kinds of very specific individual items, and saying, if we did these things, the school would be capable of doing blah, 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 blah. I don't think, at least I've not seen that exercise done.
I know sorry.
Because I've queried Derek on this, all he's come back with is said, this is the amount per square foot that MSBA says is the rule, or the architects, I don't know who, is the rule of thumb for bringing these schools up to code. But that's not defining what the specifics are that would be specific to us.
So, well, I'll let Eric speak to, you have to remember that when we went through, a long time ago, when we went through the process and coming up with all those different options, that's all part of feasibility. It's in order to get a detail, you would have to do a feasibility study, if, in other words, to get the level of detail that we have right now if you were going to do a repair. In other words, it costs money to get that level. I don't, Eric, you can speak to that.
Right, if you go back
I
all
do
the way
have
to
a
the
separate question
beginning,
about this.
all the way back to the beginning of the feasibility. The feasibility, we had, at the beginning of feasibility, 14 options on the table, of which those were estimated from ADA compliance and code compliance, all the way through to building different types of options, additions and renovations, new buildings for a single school, and combined buildings across the different sites. Each of those options was weighed out at the school building committee, including the repair option for both the Winthrop and the Cutler. Cutler's probably had the most in-depth, because that's the target school, if you will, where people have gone through and looked for, they've done soil testing around the outside, they've done testing on the inside, so that's probably the cleanest. But yeah, the number is $774 per square foot of buildings. That's what we're getting from our OPM, based on their conversations with both the MSBA and other OPMs that are currently doing projects around the state.
So my question was actually going to be a little bit different, so
Yeah.
I started, and then, I don't know if that, did you feel like you got your question answered?
Yeah, I do. I'm not happy with it, but I understand where he's coming from.
Okay, so my question was actually was going to be a little bit different, and this is kind of to everyone. So when I'm looking at this, I'm trying, we're so immersed in this, and we've been listening and talking and answering questions for such a long time, and this is a common question that comes up a lot about, couldn't we just repair instead? But I'm thinking about this, if a person, this is genuinely a question for the committee, if you were walking into town meeting and you really didn't have hardly any information about this, I'm wondering if you got to this and thought cost of repairs, if it's confusing. Are you thinking that, like, we're repairing something? Like,
Yeah.
in other words, I don't know. I'm curious about whether it's super clear that we're saying, like, repairs were investigated and then not
Yeah.
I just don't
Yeah.
know. I'm tempted, and I'm open-minded on this, but I'm tempted to say maybe we don't need these 2 paragraphs on here, because,
Or
I
change,
think we
I
do.
think they'll be called out
Yeah.
as
But-
misleading.
or change it from cost of repairs to cost of bringing the schools up to code.
Well, the verbiage used on our documents are ADA compliance and code upgrades.
Right.
That's what we've used all along.
no,
We could use that instead of the word repair.
I guess what I'm trying to say, I'm not advocating that I'm just trying to say, would a person who hasn't been following this, would they understand that this thing that says cost of repairs is not what we're doing? This is an alternative that people are talking about, but it isn't something that's being presented to them.
Correct.
It's not an option.
What-
So I'm concerned that, like, someone might not, are you following what I'm saying? Like that, like they
Yeah.
might think,
Yep.
I've
Well,
What if we phrase it as why not repair
well,
what
and
we
that's,
have?
and I don't know that I want to get down that road, because that's kind of like,
Take them off. I mean, David's saying they're misleading. You
well,
could
are
take
you,
them both
I
off.
thought
Why are
maybe
they
you were saying it
misleading?
was misleading to take them off.
What's misleading about them?
I think the feedback I've had is that this flies in the face of the belief of an awful lot of people that it's possible, from a financial point of view, for a lot less dollars to have sufficient improvements, not to some unspecified code, and undocumented detailed plan. That we don't have any documented alternative plans. What we have is a rule of thumb-based statement that the individual bringing up to code without specifying the codes would cost a fortune, whereas a lot of people don't believe it. They believe that if you put a new roof on and upgrade the HVAC systems and do some basic repairs, it would be a lot less. Now, that's obviously disputable, but we haven't to my knowledge, we haven't gone through that exercise. And that's going to be at the root cause of an awful lot of people not wanting to vote for this.
So the
So that's
problem with just doing spot repairs is once you start bringing a building up to code, everything has to come up to code. You can't just pull the HVAC system up to code. Everything in the entire building, as soon as you start bringing one thing up to code, everything has to go up to code.
It triggers a
electrical-
requirement that you
What,
meet
I don't know
code.
what code you're referring to, or
The
codes.
building codes.
Right, when you build a building, you meet the current building codes, but as time goes on, the building codes change and evolve, but you're not required to continually update your building to meet the new building codes. But if you put a certain amount of money into the building, I don't remember what the triggering amount is, but if you put a certain amount of money into a building as a repair, then it triggers the requirement that you meet all the building codes now. And so,
And
you end up-
how much is that amount? What is the
It's a
trigger?
percentage of the building.
It's a percentage of the value of the building. So once you hit repairs of a percentage of the value of the building, you automatically trigger ADA compliance, things that need to be done.
so I just want to, I think this is important to
haven't
hear,
seen
but
that
I
done.
also want to remind us that what we're really talking about is
Well, okay.
Yeah.
the document.
I have some
here.
ideas about how to solve these problems. So for one thing, I just want to say, I got these figures from the school building website with the chart of all the different versions, and these were the base repair numbers, just to be clear.
Yep.
I wrote in version 1, the final paragraph, we are frequently asked, why don't we just repair both the Winthrop and Cutler schools? I agree, this is the number one question that I get, because I think
Correct.
when people are talking about improving a building, they're thinking of it the same way they would improve their home. And so, and that makes sense.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
That's what people's experiences are. But I think that just giving a little bit of background info about what the requirements are through the state might be important. So my idea to solve this is, the end of this, rather than be more of a bullet point, maybe I can truncate this paragraph a little bit, but maybe we replace it with a paragraph to address that issue, because I do think that is the number one question. So I don't know if we want to read that last paragraph to decide, or you want me to take a stab
We
at.
have some verbiage on the FAQ site
Yeah.
related to that question. We've
Yes.
answered it many times. So we could probably look at.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think I'm going to leave it up to you to troubleshoot that. I mean, my feedback is that I actually really like the way that the one that's up on the screen is formatted with like each thing having a bold point. I don't know if there's any way of fitting it into that format, because I do really like
Yeah,
the
it'll be
way
a little
that
longer.
is, because someone could scroll down and be like, I'm interested in teacher support, and so,
Right.
like, but I think that does meet the concerns both ways, like that people are saying that that's a very common question and concern, and I'm open to, if you all think that I'm not right in having that concern about it saying cost of repairs.
I know what you mean.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, it could
Like,
be a little confusing about.
I just think, again, not just, but we're so in it, but not
Yeah.
everyone is. And so I can see someone reading that and be like, wait a minute, cost of repairs 45 million, but over here you're saying it's 142 mil. Like, I don't understand. Like, because, so I just want to think,
Question, is the year one, what is the year of the year one? Is that 2028? 20,
Be
The
either
first-
28 or 20.
It would be either 28 or 29.
the first year that you'd see
Yeah.
it on your tax bill, is that the question?
Correct, yeah.
That's a good question that I haven't actually heard a lot of people asking that question. That's an important point.
We can add that to the
We
chart.
sent it out yesterday. The charts that went out yesterday have the actual.
Yeah.
I think I started them at 2028.
Yeah.
It really is a conversation we have with the towns when they start the funding. So
But
it could
wouldn't
be
you have
28 or
to-
29.
28 or 29 is for the bulk of it. There will probably be a small interest payment in 27.
Okay, because when, yeah, okay, I'm gonna just take your
Okay.
word for that, it doesn't
Financing is
matter.
messy.
Right.
Do we want to put
what do we think the
year-
interest rate's going to be?
Right now, 4.5 is their estimate.
Do we want to put the year under year one, just to give people a little bit of a
Do that.
landmark? Is it 28 or 29?
Well, that's the problem
That's
with
the
putting
problem.
it,
And
Okay.
the term's 20
right,
years?
is that you don't want to, so, but is that something that you're gonna address in your remarks?
Yes, because as that's come up in both FinCom meetings, the accuracy of the figures over time can't be perfected because the shift changes. So the assessments, including for debt, are based on the annual shift percentage rates. So we're currently using this year's shift in the percentage to figure out this bond, because we have no idea what the shift will be in 2028 or 29. It moves around, as we all know. I mean, it's slightly different. It's not dramatically different, but that's been the concern all along of the FinComs, to say, we understand people want to see 20 years, but it's not very accurate after year one, and even year one is really dependent on what the shift is
Right.
of at the time of the assessment.
I guess I would rather not put a year on there if there's any
don't know
chance
what
that
it
the
is,
year is
yeah.
going to be 27
Yeah.
instead of 28. I don't think that, I think that,
That's why we removed it and started.
yeah,
putting
I
just year
think
one.
it's, it's important information, and I think, it's good to have people understand that. I think the shift is same thing, that like, this is year one, this information is much more accurate in year one than it is in year 20, but it's, because the shift can change over 20 years, but, I mean, the total is accurate. The total between the two towns is accurate. It's just a matter of like, is it gonna get shifted a little bit one way or the other between the two towns? I mean, that could happen.
And we know it moves back and forth.
Yeah, it moves back
so-
and forth, so.
I think that they're more going to be interested in is when do I need to start paying more taxes?
Right.
And do I plan to stay in town because that's too much, or do I?
Right, and
plan
so
on
I think
moving out?
that, I agree, I think that's really important, and so I wouldn't, just me, even though we anticipate that the year is 2028, I wouldn't want to put that on there if there's a chance that it could be 2027, because I would want that to be clear that this is
Yeah.
one of the many factors that are potentially variable.
But I
And
think
it
you can
depends
put
on-
this, you could put in that this could start in as early as 27 or as late as
27
20.
is just the interest payment,
Yeah.
just to clarify.
Yeah.
And it
But
depends
I
on what
think
the
they, I
towns
think they
decide.
deserve that specificity.
I do too. I just don't, I think it's like there's so much information that needs to be provided. We are just deciding which goes on this document versus what gets presented in the presentation.
Yep.
Just because,
This is kind of one shot, just people see it, some people see this for the first time.
Right.
Believe it or not.
Oh,
So
no,
they put it out everywhere.
and that is definitely true. I mean, we've, like I said 1,000 times, we're so immersed in it, but there's absolutely other things at town meeting that, I fully admit, there'll be something else at town meeting that'll be, for me, it'll be the first time I'm looking at it. I mean, that, not everybody can't be up on every single thing. So, did you,
I have one more thing.
Yep.
Should we change estimates as of to March instead of February at the bottom of the chart? Or is that number?
no, because they made those
You
in.
made those in February?
Yeah,
And we're not
maybe in
updating them?
February, and the board voted February
Okay.
26th
Got it.
on those actual numbers, the MSBA board.
Right, those are, and also, I think both FinComs did their work in
Yes, everybody's
February.
used
Got
the
it.
same
Okay.
chart. We've tried to all use the same exact debt chart that Vinnie had received from our debt people,
Sounds good.
our bond agent. All right, so we'll tweak it and bring it back, or?
So, yeah, and then I will say, unlike tonight's meeting, I will say, next time, we really do need to be in a place where we can, either approve and get it out, or make a suggestion that's easily fixable, because we won't have time to see it again.
I do have a question, though. Last meeting, we talked a little about using this to get information out, whether through like a mailer or handouts. Is that something we want to do? Do we feel like what we've gotten out already is enough? Or just because we talked about it last time, I feel like
Yeah.
it's addressable.
I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Eric? I mean, I feel like that I've seen a bunch of things that have been getting pushed out that have a lot of this information that doesn't have to be so crammed into one page, like, it's hard to make it all on one page. I don't know. I don't think there's anything bad about putting this out. I just think,
We can put it out. I mean, sometimes we'll give it
More
out at the
information
senior
is-
centers, like we'll leave
yeah.
copies at the senior centers just so they have them in advance.
So in that case, we want to make these edits, so in that case, are we waiting until the 20th to approve it and hand them out?
yeah.
So
Okay.
March 20th, we need to approve them. We could approve it, if there's still minor tweaks, we could approve it
With
pending the,
with
with the
tweaks,
changes.
right.
Yeah.
And then on the 23rd is when I've been asked to get the final document to the moderators
Okay, that's good.
for
I
approval.
feel
They have to be approved by the moderators.
that's like 2 weeks where people can
Yep.
have it in hand before town meeting. Okay,
And again, it's not the only,
it's not the only source.
right, in other words, I felt like that some of the stuff that got pushed out this week, there was some good information that, including some tax information.
Yep, we put out tax charts that people can actually look at the approximate value of their house for the whole 20 years. And I will take this second one that we cleaned up this afternoon and make sure it's on as an exhibit on this agenda. So everybody has it if you want to take a look at it and let Amy know of thoughts that may come up later.
Ahead of time, yeah.
Yep, ahead of time, yep.
That's great.
Okay, anybody else have anything else?
I don't think so.
All right, Amy, you think you have the information you need?
Yeah, I do, thank you.
Okay,
Pictures in case I drop these in a puddle.
all right, moving on. I don't think we have anything on finance and operations,
Nope.
do we?
Vinny gets the
Nope.
night off.
All right, capital finance?
Our next meeting is in March, and I just had the date. March 17th, 2025.
Okay, that's coming right up, next week, maybe.
Yep.
Or maybe not.
No,
Yeah.
the week after.
Okay, great, thank you. Policy?
We have a meeting on the 12th at 7. Jen Janelle will send that out. We just confirmed it today.
Excellent. All right,
12th of March.
Yes.
Yep.
On Zoom at 7 PM.
okay. Negotiations has nothing to report. We have not met. You all saw, can I just have like verbal confirmation that you've all actually looked at the secretary report that David sent out?
Yes.
Yes.
I made a list.
David,
for
did you take a look at that?
No, I didn't, I didn't notice
So
it.
David,
Where was it?
Polito sent, we talked about it at last meeting, David Polito sent it out via email. It's a spreadsheet, and it would be really good if everyone could confirm that they actually looked at it and took a stab at trying to find any of the missing minutes that you may or may not have. If you have missing minute, if you have some, please fill in the chart to say that you have it, but then also send them along to David, or let David know, I guess. He's going to give us information about how
It's
he
an
wants to
Excel
receive them,
file that
correct?
came from him. I don't recall getting an email from him at all, so go hunt it down.
I could send it out again.
Okay, that'd be great.
It was sent out on the 27th,
Of January, was it?
no,
No,
of
February.
February.
And then he resent after last meeting, too.
Yeah.
That was the 27th.
Oh, okay, that was, yeah. So he sent it out, then he resent it, and there are sort of a smattering of minutes that people might have, and then there are definitely executive session minutes that would be really good to make sure we have.
Yeah, I marked a couple, the ones from Capital Finance back in 2017. That was before my
Yeah,
time.
no, there's there before everybody's time. They went back in time before we were any of us were here. But yeah, and please do look, like I looked at all of them, and I was like, as an example, I think I found one for unknown reasons, like Amy wrote it, but I have it in my files, so like, great, like I didn't think I was responsible for it, and I wasn't, but I have it, so please take a note, take a moment. All right. Eric, do you have a superintendent's report?
Yeah, just two quick things here. I have the week of the 17th of March, we will be celebrating Neurodiversity Week. That will be really focused on The elementary level this year, with the presenter Meg Thompson, she'll be presenting No Brain is the same. We'll do that with our younger kids. We also have the district-wide fundraiser with the police and fire and Five Sons Pizza to raise funds to support autistic students and students with disability in the district. Any money that's raised goes to the CPAC. CPAC in turn uses that money to pay for things like this presenter that we'll be bringing in. The second thing is a follow-up on DECA. They went to the States last week. 98 kids. We had 12 state champion trophies, 20 state finalist medallions, 7 medallions for the top score on an exam or role play. And it was quite a weekend. So we have a number of kids that will be heading out to the nationals in the next few weeks, actually. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have questions for Eric?
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, how's the absenteeism like at the moment?
What do you mean?
Well, there's a lot of influenza going around in the school, and I'm just curious, are you seeing any lift in the last month and a half, 2 weeks?
We've been running roughly the same attendance. We run between 90 and 95%, even after vacations when sickness comes in. So yeah, we have seen the flu. We've seen stomach virus. We've seen we're dealing with kind of ups and downs. It goes around different schools, but yeah, we do have it. We have dealt with it, but our attendance is fairly consistent along the way.
Okay. I do not have a chair report, unless anyone has any questions for me.
I have no questions.
Okay, does anyone have topic for future meeting?
Approving the now meeting flyer.
Okay, that will be on there next meeting. We will definitely have that on there.
Yeah, I think we should put the Board of Health's recommendation on the agenda for discussion.
We can look at that. I've just gotten the letter now. We'll just sort of look at whether it's more appropriate here or as at the school building committee. So we can talk about that.
Yeah, I think
Dana,
actually
Yep.
both.
can we get sent copies of that? Because you and
Right.
Eric got the only copies, I think.
Correct, right. I assume he'll send it electronically, but I could scan it even.
I'd
Do we have
appreciate
to put that on the agenda?
Do it- do it. Do I have to put what on the agenda?
This letter that David Smith dropped off.
No. You mean because he handed it to
Yeah.
us? It can't go on this agenda because the
Right, that's what I'm asking. We don't.
no, we
Okay,
couldn't
okay.
put it on this agenda because that would appear to future people like that we had it ahead of time, which we
Yep.
didn't, so we wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
Perfect.
no, I think actually it should be on both agendas, the school building.
Okay, so we will,
Because it's deliberately directed, I gather, to both.
okay. We can talk and we'll look at that, and I haven't read the letter, so we'll
I understand.
see. Okay, I'm sorry, what did you say, Jen?
No, I said what I was, about making sure we all got a copy.
Oh, okay. I thought there was a topic for future meeting in there. No, yes, I will definitely forward the letter to you.
I'll have Janelle send it out
Okay.
tomorrow.
All right. Anybody else have any topics for future meetings?
I have,
Yep.
probably not next meeting, the meeting after. We do have 2 policies that we need to adjust.
Okay,
One per the state, and one we want to enhance a policy. The first one is going to be some adjustments to the bullying policy for the district. We had a review back in January, and they made some suggestions of a couple of things to add to our policy. So we've sent that to our attorneys. We're just waiting for it to come back. So once I get it back, I will put that on request for a future agenda.
okay,
And the second one will be an addition to our query and fingerprinting policy. But I have to get more information from the Department of Child Services because they have a new way to check into individuals who have been involved in child abuse. And that's been kind of found that, yes, there was an abuse situation. It's been pursued by DCF. So there's a new way to look up kind of another enhancement to protecting our kids. So I'm getting that information again from I'm actually getting it from another superintendent who was able to put together an addition to their policy. I just want to run it by our legal first, and then see if the policy committee can
Okay.
discuss that.
Yeah,
too,
and I
so-
think you and I can talk about whether, I think, it probably makes sense to put it on our agenda so that we can discuss sending it to
Yeah,
policy. We'll
yeah,
talk about
yeah.
where that, yeah.
Okay, I just wasn't sure how you want to do that.
Yeah.
So can I ask a question and then add maybe one or two things to a future meeting? The school phone policy, Eric.
Mhm.
Of course, I've been hearing about that, but is that something that has to go through the school committee, or will that be done at the individual school level?
So, interesting question. It will be done at the school level once the school committee approves the student handbook. So
Okay.
it becomes, so interesting, de facto, it becomes part of the school handbook that gets approved by the school committee. So you'll see it before that, because I think we'll have Brian
Yeah,
come and present it once they
Just
get it finalized.
because I've got a bunch of questions on it.
Yeah, yeah,
that
absolutely.
that I want a chance to ask.
Yeah, I think it's important to have Brian come and present it. They'll talk about the process.
Yeah.
And then certainly feel free to email Brian questions too. He's been
Okay.
knee-deep in it with, they have a committee that have been
Yeah.
doing different
with the
focus groups and
students on the
things, so.
committee too, yeah.
Yeah,
And the other thing was, can we continue our exploration on swapping the middle school and high school start times with the elementary start times? I just don't want that to drop off the face of the planet.
sure. Yep.
Thank you.
We'll have to come up with a process for that, because I think we just kind of let it flatten out, and then,
We did.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
we can do that, yep.
I set a calculator or a calendar reminder that in 6 months I would
No, that's good.
Good for you.
say something again.
Okay. All right, anybody have anything else?
That's the longest list I think we ever got.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right.
Amy's on the second.
All those in favor? We are adjourned at 8:02.